We got several different stories from several different media outlets, guys. It's time for another episode of the World Newsround. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here, another episode of the World Newsround, where I cover various stories from outside the UK on different backgrounds. Let me start with this one from Politico here, with the headline that Alexei Navalny was killed on the eve of a prisoner swap, his team claims. Roman Abramovich helped broker a prosperous exchange for FFP assassin before Putin torpedoed the deal, according to Navi's allies. Now, this one I've seen this one batter around a few places. Now, obviously, his allies are saying that a deal was going to be struck, that he was going to get swapped out for prison. And if I'm absolutely honest, I just don't buy it, guys. I really don't buy this. And the reason why I don't buy this is because why would Putin want to let one of his biggest rivals, one of his biggest political opponents, why would he do that? Why would he let that happen? I just have a very hard time believing this story, and I've seen it not just from Politico but from many other stories, and this is obviously what they are saying. But I'm just trying to understand is it a case that they were doing this under Putin's nose, trying to make a prison swap happen, and then Putin found out and said no? Is that the case here? Because I think that's the only reason why I think maybe that perhaps any kind of prison swap was being taken place. I personally just don't see, when he was alive, any kind of deal that would see him get swapped out, because he has a very strong voice for the people of Russia. He's very vocal of Putin and his handling of things, and he's not afraid to speak of them. And if he had been swapped out and been let into, I don't know, working in Europe and whatnot, he would have been a loud voice for a lot of Russian people and could cause dissent, and Putin would not want that. So yeah, I'm very, very skeptical of this claim, but it's entirely possible as well. So a bombshell video by Alexei Navalny's team claimed that Russian opposition politician was deliberately killed on President Vladimir Putin's orders on the eve of the prisoner exchange that would have seen him released return for an FSB assassin jailed in Germany. In a YouTube video published titled "Why Did Putin Kill Navalny Now?", the opposition politician closely allied Marika Petric said that after months of lobbying for a prison swap involving Navalny, by the spring of last year our plan was approved. Navalny was supposed to be freed in the coming days because we had achieved a decision on his exchange, she said. Petric added that the Russian billionaire oligarch Roman Abramovich had acted as a personal liaison between Western officials and Putin in brokering the deal. Politico has not been able to independently verify Petric's claims. Petric's said in the deal, including Vladimir Kushkov, an FSB agent jailed in Germany for murdering a former Chechen commander in 2019, and 2 American citizens. Petricus added that she had received confirmation late on February the 15th that such a swap was going to take place, but believed Putin had then changed his mind. Since they are willing to exchange Peskov on principle, then I just need to get rid of the bargaining chip Navalny. Priskin summarized Putin's thinking, then offered someone else when the time comes. It's absolutely irrational. It's the behavior of a mad manifesto, but the point is that Putin has gone mad with hatred for Navalny, she said. Kremlin did not immediately comment on Navalny's team allegations. 2 Western officials acknowledged that there were talks underway on a prison swap, but denied that any formal offer had been made. So, allegedly, there was talks taking place. I still struggle to believe it now, but, it's entirely possible. On the 16th of February, day after Peshkin claims to receive confirmation the deal was in its final stages, Navalny is reported to have collapsed and died after a walk in Pennsylvania, where he was held in the north of the Arctic Circle. In the video, Peshkin did not mention the name of 2 US citizens, but if ever such a deal existed, it would likely have included the US journalists Evan Goshkich and Paul Wojcicki, who have both been jailed in Russia on espionage charges widely seen as fabricated. In an interview with the US right-wing pundit Tucker Carlson earlier this month, Putin said he did not exclude a deal for the release of Wall Street Journal reporter Gleshkich if our partners take repercussional steps. Yeah, I don't know about that one, Steve. I am about the American journalist at the time of this recording. I'm optimistic, but I'm also like, That one is not as big as an issue as Navalny, obviously. He spoke out in person due to patriot sentiments, who eliminated a bandit in one of European capital. In a statement widely seen as confirmation that Putin wanting Kriskos to be released in return. It is a small one, obviously, small story, but I do think it's. I'm still like, I just don't think Putin would wanted him out, wanted him speaking anymore, and where he was would made sense for him. I just don't think that it would have benefited, benefited him. Obviously, I'm only speculating. We don't know what Putin is thinking, but um, I just can't see. I could not have seen any kind of prison swap whatsoever for him. I couldn't personally see it in any way, shape, or form. And what happened to him was absolutely disgusting, if I'm honest, because he didn't do anything wrong. He really didn't do anything wrong, Alexei Navalny. He really didn't, and it's a sad state of affairs. So this next story I've got for you guys, is from France 24, and this is an interesting one to say the least. I don't know how much truth is into this, but this is a interesting one to say the least. So the headline is: Macron is not ruling out Western troops on the ground in Ukraine. The French President Emmanuel Macron announced on Monday new steps to boost Ukraine in its fight against the Russian invasion, saying that not even sending of Western ground troops was ruled out to achieve Europe's goal of defending in Moscow. Now, I'm very I don't know how French people would feel about their soldiers going to defend Ukraine. I'm not sure how other European nations feel about putting their own boots on the ground to defend Ukraine. I don't know if we're going to go that far. On the ground in Ukraine, I mean, but the thing is like, there's a couple of problems. Like, first of all, the first problem is that Ukraine is not part of the EU. Secondly, it's not part of NATO. They are a country that has many issues. They do have still corruption they need to amp out. Yes, I know they are losing troops and they're losing ground right now. I'm not debating that in any way, shape, or form. But we are already as European nations, we're already deeply involved in this because we are supplying arms and equipment to Ukraine. Do we really want to start sending troops here? Sending troops to this war? We are pretty much bringing the whole of, if we go this far, we're going to be bringing in other countries. We're going to be pretty much starting a world war if we do this. It really will be Europe versus Russia, and not just Ukraine versus Russia here. And the question is, do we really, really want that? Something tells me that we don't. And I am starting to have these thoughts that perhaps, maybe, just maybe, perhaps it's time to consider some kind of negotiation with this conflict, because I know that I just don't see at the moment, as of right now, even if hypothetically, guys, at the time of this recording, they're still getting all the aid packages from the US, Europe, and everything. Let's just say they got all the aid and support that they keep continuing to get. I'm not seeing Ukraine turning this war around right now. I can't see it. I only see Russia gaining ground. And the more time goes on, I feel like as of right now, it doesn't look like it's going to change in any way, shape, or form. So apparently Macron's solution is perhaps putting Western troops on the ground. Now, he said he's not ruling out Western troops. He didn't say French troops, but he said Western troops. Speaking after hosting a meeting of 24 European leaders to discuss Ukraine, Macron painted a grim picture of Russia, whose positions said they were hardening both at home and on the battlefield. We are convinced that the defeat of Russia is indispensable to security and stability in Europe, he said. Russia, he said, was showing a more aggressive attitude, not just in Ukraine, but in general. While there is no consensus on sending of Western ground troops to Ukraine, nothing should be excluded. We will do whatever it takes to ensure Russia cannot win this war, he said. So he said nothing can be excluded, but he's not completely ruled it out. He refused to say more about France's position, citing that the need for strategic ambiguity, but saying the issue was mentioned among the options. Slovak's Prime Minister Robert Falcao was quoted as saying that some EU and NATO members were weighing the option. So many people say they never ever today. Sorry, 1 second, guys. I thought I sorted out the. My apologies. There you go. Some people who said they never ever today were some people never said never tanks, never planes, never long range missiles 2 years ago. Where Russia invaded, Macron said, let's have the humility to note that we have often been 6 to 12 months late. They have U-turned on many things. Like, we said we weren't going to send these weapons, or we're not going to send this, they're not going to send this. Look, excuse me, sounding boring at this time, apologies. And they are still sending these, and they are sending these stuff. We are still sending this stuff. But the other thing that a lot of people are starting to feel, because this has been a few years now, a lot of people in Europe, many countries are feeling this kind of tiredness, dragginess of billion-dollar packages and aid going to Ukraine without and not enough being done to look at the home front, shall we say? And this is becoming a problem. And I and nobody here wants Russia to win this war, but many people are getting tired of it, and I think that's becoming the tiredness and the stagnation of this conflict is definitely weighing up on people, and I think that is something that people are like can we not get a ceasefire or something? I think some people are starting to feel that way at this point. Macron says the new coalition would be set up to supply Ukraine with missiles and bombs of medium and long range to keep out deep strikes. There is a broad consensus to do more and quicker, he added, saying there was also a consensus to ramp up joint production of armaments with Ukraine to boost its own military industry. Czech's Premier Fatih Parma, meanwhile, said there was great support for an indefinite to help Ukraine buy munitions outside the EU. The Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said that his country would contribute and others would follow. Nothing can be excluded to achieve our objective. Russia cannot win that war, says Macron. Well, at the moment, things are going their way. So it's easy to say that they can't win the war, but well, they are winning the war. That's at the moment. At the moment, the way that Ukraine are trying to do it, they're trying to just hold the lines and keep as many and try and just protect as many Ukrainian soldiers as they can, minimize as much casual losses as they can, while Russia's aggression obviously throws loads of bodies at the wall, and hopefully they'll push through. And it does work to a certain extent, but it just means more Russian lives have been lost. The German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Polish President Andrzej Duda were among around 25 European heads of state and government at the conference. Other state ministers, says, was Foreign Secretary David Cameron in Paris for Britain, and the United States and Canada were also represented. He opened the conference in Élysée Palace. Macron said that Ukrainian allies need to jumpstart their support as the war entered its third year. We see the hardening of the part of Russia, especially in these past few months, Macron said. He said that this had cruelly manifested in the death of February the 16th of President Vladimir Putin's top opponent Alexei Navalny, but also in hardening of Russia's positions on the front line where it's planning new attacks. Macron said leap was needed in the West in its approach to take into account the transformation of the threat from a military and strategic point of view. The conference signals Macron's eagerness to present himself as the European champion of Ukraine's cause, amid growing fears that American support could wane in the coming months. Together, we must ensure Putin cannot destroy our achievements and cannot expand its aggression to other nations, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in a brief video message to the conference. Western officials acknowledged that Russia risks gaining the upper hand in the conflict this year as Ukraine runs out of weapons and ammunition. The Defense Minister, Ryzhky Omorov, said on Sunday that half of the Western's military aid package to Ukraine is delivered late, noting that commitments does not constitute delivery. Zelensky compared Ukraine to only 30% of a million shells the EU had promised. It is clear we do not have this million, Macron said, acknowledging that an imprudent commitment. There is growing doubts about the visibility of the long-term US backing for Ukraine as the new aid packages struggle to legislate the approval, and Donald Trump, who has indicated opposition to further support for Kiev, eyes a return to presidency in election this year. Yeah, we know that obviously that Trump does not want to wants to stop supporting Ukraine. He sees it as a waste of money and time, and we know he's Putin's puppet anyway. We know that, and it's tough, guys. It's tough. Trying to justify the West and the world to continue supplying Ukraine. It's hard to justify that when our own nations are struggling as it is. It's hard to make that justification, and people are buying into it when people are struggling out there. It's hard to make that justification to continue supporting Ukraine. But and it's playing into the hands of the dangerous people, those who seek harm. It's playing into their hands, and we'll be looking at the Kyivindependent a bit later. I might bring up the deep state map for you guys as well. Yeah, it's problematic for sure, guys. So guys, while you're here, if you can hit the like button, be greatly appreciated. Share it across social media and hit that bell notification icon so you'll be notified of when I upload another video for you guys. The next one we got is from Al Jazeera, guys. Sticking with what's happening in Europe. Hungary has ratified Sweden's NATO bid, clearing the final obstacle to membership. The vote by the Hungarian parliament ends more than 18 months of delay. So it looks like finally Sweden's NATO bid is finally going to clear obstacles and assure its membership. Again, Hungary kind of just been a stumbling block in things. They've been a stumbling block in the EU and they've been a stumbling block in NATO. We know that they have close ties to Putin and Russia. This is not new information, of course, but it's good that Sweden are one step closer to having their NATO bid secured. So Hungary's parliament have voted to ratify Sweden's bid to join NATO, bringing an end to more than 18 months of delay that have frustrated the alliance as it seeks to expand in response to Russia's war on Ukraine. Monday's vote, which passed with 188 members for and 6 against, was a culmination of months of wrangling by Hungarian's allies to persuade its nationalist government to lift the blocks on Sweden's membership. The government of the Prime Minister Viktor Orbán submitted the protocols for approving Sweden's entry into NATO in July 2022, but the matter has stalled in Parliament over opposition by government party lawmakers. Unanimous support for all NATO members is required to admit new countries, and Turkey and Hungary is the last of the alliance's 31 members to give its backing since Turkey ratified the request last month. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson called it a historic day. We're ready to stand shoulder to shoulder to share our responsibility for NATO's security, he wrote on X. The NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg said the military alliance would soon be stronger. Now our allies have approved, Sweden will become the 32nd NATO ally, the General Secretary wrote on X. Sweden's membership will make us all stronger and safer. Orbán, a right-wing populist who's forged close ties with Russia, has said criticism of Hungary's democracy by Swedish politicians has soured relations between the two countries and led to reluctance among lawmakers in his Fritz party. But the vote on Monday removed the final membership hurdle for Sweden, which, along with its neighbour Finland, first applied to join the alliance in May 2022, just a few months after the start of the Russia full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Finland experienced a few roadblocks in its membership application and joined NATO in April last year. Yeah, they did. They already joined, but they had some stumbling blocks too. Addressing lawmakers before the vote on Sweden, Orbán said Sweden and Hungary's military cooperation and Sweden's NATO accession strengthens Hungary's security. Orbán criticised Hungary's European Union and NATO allies for placing increased pressure on his government in recent months to move forward on bringing Sweden into the alliance. Several people tried to intervene from the outside in the setting of our disputes with Sweden, but this did not help but rather hampered the issue, Orbán said. Hungary is a sovereign country. It does not tolerate being ditched by others, whether it will be continent of its decision of their timing. This month, the bipartisan group of United States senators visited Hungary and announced it would submit a joint resolution to the US Congress condemning Hungary's alleged democratic backsliding and urging Orbán's government to immediately lift its block on Sweden's transatlantic integration. On Friday, Kristersson met with Orbán in Budapest, where he appeared to achieve a reconciliation after months of diplomatic tension. So they actually went out of their way to meet. Interesting. After the meeting, the leaders announced the conclusion of the defence industry agreement that will include Hungary's purchase of 4 Swedish-made JAS-39 Gripen jets and the extension of a service contract for its existing Gripen fleet. Orbán said its additional fighter jets will significantly increase our military capabilities to further strengthen our role abroad, which will improve Hungary's ability to participate in joint NATO operations. To be a member of NATO together with other countries means we are ready to die for each other, Orbán said. A deal on defence and military capabilities helped to reconstruct the trust between the two countries. A presidential signature is needed to formally endorse the approval of Sweden's NATO bid, which is expected within the next few days. Sweden will then be invited to accept the Washington Treaty and officially become NATO's 32nd member. Good. More nations joining together for NATO. I think it's great. It's a good thing, and I think it'll be a great thing in terms of the unison that there are needed between nations. We need our time, especially when there's the possibility of Trump looking to break US again out of NATO, wanting to sow divisions. This, along with Finland, is a good thing to keep NATO union strong. I'm glad that things have finally been sorted out. We know that Hungary was and Viktor Orbán were holding out for certain concessions and whatnot. We know that they were stalling on things, but hopefully there will not be any too much stalling and hopefully Sweden will officially be in NATO bid within the next month or two. Hopefully it won't be too long now, and that will be put down. So running through these a lot quicker than I thought, guys. I've still got several more articles for you guys before we go to the next thing, guys. If you're not already a YouTube member, if you'd like to become a YouTube member, you could do so for as little as 99p. Guys, that financially supports me in the work that I do. It really does mean the world to me. Anyone who is financially supporting me as a memberships, and anyone whether it is a Snowflake Enforcer or Snowflake Corporal, which is 99p or $2.99 respectively, you get access to exclusive benefits for them, such as custom emojis, early access to videos on certain levels as well. So any of that stuff will be greatly appreciated. So guys, we'll take a little bit of a break. I've run through the stories a lot faster than I expected. This one here, guys, is from Foil and Arms. I hope you guys enjoyed this little funny video. It's when a white guy visits India. Okay.
You can see since March it's kind of just dropped off a cliff. So
hey Steve.
Namaste.
You have a nice holiday?
Not sure you'd understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll chat soon. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you about it if you insist.
Well, we're actually kind of,
because it wasn't really a holiday. It was more of a life-changing voyage of self-discovery.
Right. India, wasn't it?
Bharat, yes.
Sorry, that's
an incredible place.
okay.
Have you been?
No.
Where did you stay?
In the Radisson, but I barely spent any time there. I was mostly on the streets, soaking in the local culture and journaling. Lots of journaling. And looking at people wistfully and pityingly who weren't journaling.
Sounds like you had a good time. Right.
I'm not sure you'd understand if I told you.
No, why would we?
You'll never guess what happened to me.
You got a henna tattoo.
Just felt right in the moment.
I heard the food is amazing in India.
Believe the hype. On the first day there, I tried the most incredible local dish called the Makalu Tiki Burger.
McDonald's, isn't
You know,
it?
the thing about Hindustan
India.
is that not many people realise how big a country it is.
I think a lot of people realise.
So many states, Uttar
He's
Pradesh,
not listening to us.
Rajasthan, Punjab.
So where'd you go?
Well, I just stayed in Goa. But still, there's a lot to see there, you know?
Did you see much of Goa?
Yes. There is the most amazing view of the city from the top floor of the Radisson.
So you didn't go see like the Taj Mahal or the Golden
Amber
Temple
Palace,
or the
right?
Statue
No.
of Unity? Or...
I didn't do any of the touristy cliched stuff. I had my own inner journey.
Right.
Plus, there was so much to do in the resort anyway.
Well, look, we better, time is ticking on, so...
Time is like a river. You can never touch the same water twice.
Sorry?
You wouldn't.
Understand.
No.
All right, well, look, we're going to just...
You know, travelling by yourself, you really do meet so many more people.
How'd you get around?
Train.
No way. Was it really crowded? Or...
Don't know, I was in first class. But...
You know what? I'm just going to grab a coffee. Does anybody want anything?
Oh, yeah, just get me a chai latte and a veggie samosa. I'm a changed man.
So it seems. Yeah.
You know, on the way home, I shed myself of all earthly possessions.
Really, did you?
What? You got rid of all your stuff?
Yes. Well, no, Emirates lost my bag.
Right.
Hey lads!
Hey,
Sanjay, how are you?
How was India?
Ah, not bad, you know. Dad was in good form. We watched Netflix and cricket and had pizza most of the time.
Oh, great.
What the bloody fuck are you wearing?
Hey, we're
Guys, make sure you check out Four Arms, all their content, guys. Absolutely wonderful stuff there. Link for that video is in the description if you're not already. Check it out on there. Their one, guys, would be greatly appreciated. Right, so this next one, guys, is a great deal of concern. This one is from CNN, and it's taking place in Brazil. I don't know how much of. I think I've done a shorts video on it, or if not, but I'm going to cover it now. The headline is Bolsonaro denies a coup plot as thousands rally in support of the former Brazilian leader. So, yeah, these people. This is greatly concerning here. Thousands of people are getting behind the former Brazilian leader. Obviously, he was the former president. It was a very difficult race, yeah, to oust this man. This man is responsible for destruction of a lot of the Amazon rainforest as well. So he's definitely very Trumpian, and this could be a taste of what's to come in America, and this is the thing that we should be very concerned about here. Even if many people consider Trump mad, there are many MAGA supporters out there that will do absolutely anything for the man. And if you're just looking at this picture here of how many are supporting the former Brazilian leader, Bolsonaro, it is a great deal of cause for concern, guys. So just for the context, the former Brazilian president Jair Bolsonaro on Sunday led a large rally of his supporters in São Paulo as he denied allegations that he took part in a coup plot in an attempt to stay in power. Thousands of Bolsonaro followers wearing the green and gold of Brazil's national flag followed Proscon Avenue, a major thoroughfare in the country's largest city, in a show of support for the former leader as he faces mounting legal challenges. The far-right populists had called for the protest rally last week on social media X, calling it a defense of the democratic rule of law. Well, the thing is that if he, generally, guys, if he was not involved in any kind of coup or any kind of plot to stay in power, and he's got absolutely nothing to hide, he's got nothing to worry about. He's got nothing to fear whatsoever. That's how I see that. It's the same thing with Trump. Like, if you're innocent and you've got nothing to hide, then why are you doing this? See, this is the thing. This man is I just don't think he's good. He's good. Now, obviously, I don't know. Either myself and probably most of you here don't know a lot about South American politics, but clearly he has a way with his words, and he, I suppose some people are better off under him. But from an international perspective, I think he's really, really bad for the world. I generally do. Bolsonaro faces a Brazilian federal police investigation into an alleged attempt coup plot to keep him in power after he lost the 2022 presidential election, his lawyers confirmed in early February. Now, several former ministers who served in Bolsonaro's government are also being investigated, and some of his aides have been arrested, according to a CNN affiliate, CNN Brazil. Bolsonaro on Sunday insisted he is still being persecuted without directly mentioning the institutes handling the investigation, Brazil had reported. Last year, Bolsonaro was barred from running for political office until 2030 by the country's highest electoral court for abusing his power and misusing public media during the 2022 election campaign. After Bolsonaro lost the election by a narrow margin to leftist President Lucio Inigo Lula da Silva, his supporters rioted and broke into government buildings in Botswana on January 8, 2023. Bolsonaro denied inciting the violent attacks in the capital. Does this feel familiar, guys? Feels familiar, doesn't it? On Sunday, Bolsonaro said Parliament should offer amnesty for those poor people who are in prison in Brasilia, in reference to the January 8 rioters, according to CNN Brazil. Bolsonaro was also seen wearing an Israeli flag during the rally on Sunday in opposition to Lula da Silva, who has compared Israel's offences to Gaza to the Holocaust. Yeah, and he was wearing an Israeli flag as well. It's very worrying indeed. How do you deal with this, guys? How do you deal with someone of this magnitude? When this man, whatever you might think of him, yeah, and in my opinion, I think he's a very dangerous person. He has his supporters, he has his followers, just like Trump does, just has Nigel Farage does, just has these certain people who will believe absolutely anything and everything they do. How do you deal with these kinds of people? Now, whether or not he'll be kept out of power till 2030 is another thing. He will obviously try to look to overturn that. He's claiming obviously that he's done nothing wrong. But many people are not happy. There is absolutely, I will say that there is a lot of pressure on the current president to prove that he's capable and to prove that he's standing up for the people of Brazil. Whether he will or not, it's going to be a different thing. But yeah, he's barred from running for up to 8 years, for office for 8 years, Bolsonaro. So it's not permanent as well. So this will not be the last we hear of him. This will not be the last we hear of his supporters, and it's a cause for concern, that's for sure. Right, so this next one, guys, from Rhetorus. This is interesting one indeed. How much there is truth in this, I don't know. This has just literally been updated from the time of this recording. This is from Rhetorus with regards to the conflict in Israel and Gaza. So Biden says Israel agrees to stop Gaza attacks from Ramadan as Hamas mulls the draft truce proposal. At the time of this recording, it is 8:19 a.m. on Tuesday the 27th of February, just for reference. So there is a high possibility that this position could change at any time. So I would say just that's the time of the recording of this, just for reference. So it looks like from this time that Biden has said that Israel's agreed to stop the Gaza attacks. Now, let's hope so, that this will come towards some kind of ceasefire and eventually a permanent ceasefire down the road. Just trying to stop and calm tensions, because we all want the fighting to stop, and we know that the one nation, the one person that has the power to have more influence on anyone than anyone is President Biden and the US, and I'm sure that President Biden and the US have been saying things behind closed doors. We know that the relationship is tenuous, because I reported a while ago from an NBC exclusive about how Biden really didn't like the relationship between him. Well, directly didn't say anything bad about the relationship, but he thinks he was an arsehole, basically, Netanyahu specifically. The way that he's handling everything. So we know that the relationship is not perfect between Netanyahu and Biden explicitly, but I think publicly they made to look like they're good friends, but I think privately they're not in any way, shape or form. We know that there's always a strong relationship between Israel and America, but out of all the nations that can really, really do something about what's going on here, they are the ones that can apply the most pressure onto Israel to stopping the attacks. And I really, really hope this is the start of something that will allow aid to come in, that people will be able to, if people can get out, they can. If just giving a breathing sigh of relief, the people. I know people will say, well, he's going to give Hamas chance to reposition and whatnot, but I mean, I'm more concerned about the fact that 30,000 Palestinians have died already. More than 10,000 children are dead. I'm more concerned about their well-being than the actual conflict itself, if I'm honest. So US President Joe Biden has said that Israel has agreed to halt military activities in Gaza for the Muslim holy month of Ramadan as Hamas studies a draft proposal for truce, which includes a pause in fighting and a prisoner hostage exchange. The draft proposals, with a senior source close to the truce talks in Paris, told Reuters they would allow hospitals and bakeries in Gaza to be repaired and 500 truck aids to enter battled enclave every day. It's the most serious attempts in weeks to end the conflict, which erupted in October last year. Ramadan is expected to begin on the evening of March 10th and in the evening of April the 9th. Ramadan is coming up, and there has been agreement by the Israelis would not engage in activities during Ramadan. As well, in order to give us time to get all the hostages out, Biden said during an appearance on LBC's Late Night with Seth Meyers. He also warned that Israel risks losing international support due to the high death toll among Palestinians, adding that Israel had committed to making it possible for Palestinians to evacuate from Rafah in South Gaza before intensifying its campaign to destroy Hamas. Biden, whose remarks were recorded on Tuesday, let me just pause there, recorded on Monday and broadcast on Tuesday, said there was an agreement in principle for a ceasefire between the two sides while hostages were released. He said he had hoped to have a ceasefire in the conflict by the following Monday. There are too many innocent people there being killed, and Israel has slowed down in attacks in Rafah, Biden said, adding that a temporary ceasefire would jumpstart a process for Palestinians to have their own state. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected a two-state solution. Under the draft proposal, in exchange for Palestinian prisoners for Israeli hostages would be at the ratio of 10 to 1, the senior source said. The draft also states Hamas would free 40 Israeli hostages, including women and children under 19, elderly and over 15 were sick, and the sick, while Israel would release around 400 Palestinian prisoners and will not rearrest them, the source told Reuters. Mediators have ramped up efforts to secure a ceasefire in Gaza in the hope of heading off an Israeli assault in the Gazan city of Rafah, where more than 1 million displaced people are sheltering at the southern edge of the enclave. After Hamas killed 1,200 people and captured 253 hostages on October the 7th, Israel launched a ground assault on Gaza with nearly 30,000 people confirmed killed, according to Gaza's health authority. I hope that is the case, and I hope it does lead to it, guys. I really do hope so. We really do need a ceasefire. We need some calm. That is for sure. I really hope so, guys. It's been rough. It's been a rough time, and so many lives have been lost, guys. So many lives have been lost as a result of what's happening there. It's absolutely abhorrent. All I will, like I've said time and time again, guys. I don't hate Israel. I don't hate Jews. My beef is with the president, with the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his government, and the handling of this. The way they are handling this is just atrocious. They really are handling this quite badly, and we need a ceasefire. We need a ceasefire. Too much suffering is being caused here. Too much. It's not worth the price whatsoever. There's no justification for the lives that are being lost. None at all, guys. They're innocent people here. So, guys, got two more articles for you guys before we wrap things up. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate shares across social media and subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. Guys, this next one is from Africa. We are going to come back to Ukraine as well, but I just wanted to cover this story here in Africa. This is one of the biggest stories in Africa, and this is pretty horrible to say the least. From The Guardian, that raiders killed at least half a dozen worshippers at a Burkina Faso church. Atrocities took place during Sunday's mass in the Iskadem village and has been blamed on jihadi group activity in the region. At least 15 people were killed and 2 others injured in a terrorist attack at a Catholic church during Sunday's mass in Burkina Faso, a senior church official had said. Calling for peace and security in Burkina Faso, the Victor General of the Dorothy Jean Persky Swasco denounced that those who continue to wreak death and destitution in our country. We bring your attention a terrorist attack in which a Catholic community of Escavan village was the victim of while they were gathering for Sunday's prayers. Swasco said a provision toll of 15 and were killed and 2 were wounded, he added. Escavi village, where the attack took place, is what's known as the Free Border Zones in the Middle East of the landlocked West African country near the borders with Mali and Niger. It is the latest of a series of atrocities blamed on jihadi group active in the region, which some have involved attacks on Christian churches while others have involved the abduction of clergy. Burkina Faso is part of the vast Sahel region, which has been locked in a battle against rising violent extremism since Libya's civil war in 2011. Followed by an Islamic takeover in northern Mali in 2012, the jihadist insurgency spilled into over Burkina Faso and Niger from 2015. When Captain Imran Trotsky seized power in 2022, it was the country's second coup in less than a year, both triggered in part by discontent and the government's failure to quell jihadist violence. About 20,000 people in Burkina Faso have been killed in that violence, while more than 2 million of the nation's population of the 24 have been displaced. It is countries like these, guys, nations like these who are in these situations and there is no help and there is no support whatsoever for them. They've kind of just been left on their own, left to deal with their own problems. Nobody seems to care. Nobody's bothered about it. Oh, it's not our problem because it's a long, long way away. I've always said about international cooperation, international work to help nations and help deal with their situations, because there are countries out there who it's easy to say, oh, it's not my problem. Well, people who flee and leave these countries end up coming. This kind of this premise that we have as a society where, oh, just because something's happening in another far, far away, what's it got to do with me, sort of thing. This premise that people have in their minds, and it's a complete misconception of humanity here. Like raiders killing a dozen worshippers at a church, like it's a horrible, absolutely abhorrent thing. But it should not have happened in the first place, because there's so much corruption, so much extremism that's been engulfed in not just in this nation in Africa, but it's been taken. There's lots and lots of problems in many African countries, and nowhere near enough is being done. And it's easy to say that, oh, let the UN deal with it. Oh, let them deal with it. More discussions, more cooperation, more work needs to be done to deal and tackle with these extremisms. Let us not forget our history with African nations. As European, as most of us are from Europeans, let's not forget that we drew up the maps of Africa. It's important not to forget our history and our responsibilities. Us Britons, French, Portuguese, Belgians, who took pieces of their lands back in their history. Let us not forget the damage that we have caused to nations in Africa. And while some have been able to get on their feet on their own, and I commend those that have, others are not so fortunate. Consistent battling, the tribalism, the extremism that has been caused, advantage has been taken by China and Russia, allegedly, in some of these nations to benefit their own purpose. And these can be avoided if we actually put the effort in and choose to help them. So my sincere condolences to everyone who is suffering right now with this atrocity of an attack, and I hope some kind of justice can come around to them. I really hope so. So guys, we come back to Ukraine. We're going to be looking at the Kyivindependent. We're going to look at multiple stuff before we look at the deep state map to round things off, guys. So this one was from the Kyivindependent. It's originally from Bloomberg. At least $488 million in sanctioned goods entered Russia from the EU in 2023. This is quite worrying. So Russia imported high-priority banned goods worth 450 million euros, or originating from EU countries in the first 9 months of 2023. A quarter of which came directly from Europe, Bloomberg reported, citing unnamed officials familiar with the matter. Despite extensive Western sanctions aimed at cutting off supply lines, Russia continues to obtain sanctioned goods such as microchips via third-party countries, fueling Moscow's war machine. So one of the things that is happening, one of the problems is that while it's easy to apply sanctions on Russia and to stop direct activity, even if, obviously this story here, even though that they are still getting stuff from Europe. European countries are still selling to countries associated with Russia outside. Not direct. I'm not talking about Belarus. I'm talking about some of the Caucasus like Kazakhstan or Georgia and other nations that have trade deals with them. So even through potentially Turkey can go into Russia as well. So you can't turn off the tap. That's the problem here. I don't think you can turn off the tap. And I'm starting to wonder if these sanctions are actually helping Russia or hindering us in this conflict. The volume of trade in those unspecified goods between the European Union and Russia has declined since the outbreak of the all-out war, but exports of the same goods from European countries to third countries have surged, according to EU internal assessments. Bloomberg named Turkey, the UAE, Serbia, China, as well as Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and Kazakhstan and Armenia among the countries that have participated in the supply to culminate the sanctions. Yeah, this does not surprise me at all. This does not surprise me at all. You're just going around it. They're just going to buy. You're just going to buy through these countries. EU Trade Day also shows some of our sanctioned goods were produced by subsidies and subcontractors of some of European countries operating abroad, according to one of Bloomberg sources. There's not really, like, how are Europe supposed to be able to stop this? They can't stop other countries selling into Russia. That's the thing. Stopping other non-EU countries into Russia, you can't really do that. I'm not sure how they can respond to that. The European Union's top diplomat Joseph Borrell said in an interview that with the Kyivindependent that the EU can't impose sanctions on third countries. In late January, President Zelenskiy said that Russia used dozens of critical components from abroad to produce all of its missiles. Ukraine's National Agency on Corruption Prevention identified around 2,500 foreign components in Russian weaponry, mostly from US producers who do not sell their products to Russia directly. That's extremely embarrassing. That's US producers. How the hell is that happening? That's really, really ridiculous here. Right, so let's have a look at some of the other stories that are taking place here. This is from this morning, this is 9:19 this morning. Russian drone flew across the Moldovan border. A Russian Shahid attack drone crossed the border with Moldova overnight, flying over Moldovan territory for several tens of kilometers, has been reported. Ukrainian forces shot down 11 of the 13 attack drones that Russia had launched from Kuskova, Kali, and Kursk Oblast in the overnight attack. The route of one of the drones was provocatively directed by the enemy along a trajectory crossing the Ukrainian-Moldovan section of the state border in Oskar Oblast, the Southern Defense Forces had said. The drone flew over territory of the neighboring state for several tens of kilometers and again entered the airspace of Ukraine, where it was later destroyed by the air defense forces of Ukraine. Earlier in the evening, on February 26th, the Moldovan Defense Ministry denied reports that a drone had flown over the Moldovan airspace following an early attack. The Moldovan authorities have not yet reacted to the overnight attack, which took place in the early hours of February 27th. Moldovan authorities discovered fragments of Shadow-type drones on the border on February 11th. Statistics suspected that the drone found on its territory was downed by Ukrainian defences during the February 9th and 10th attack in Oskar Oblast there. What else do we have here? VOA, US military using its own funding to train Ukrainian soldiers, apparently. So the US Army has been forced to use its own funding to support the training of Ukrainian troops, as Congress has failed so far to pass its additional bid. Additional aid package, the Voice of America reported on today. Legislation allocating further funds for Ukraine has been stuck in Congress for months, causing US assistance to almost run dry and putting further strain on Ukraine's defense capabilities. The US military officials told VOA that if nothing changes, the US Army in Europe and Africa may run out of resources for everything, including support of Ukraine and training and operations with NATO partners by the summer. It's an essential mission. We can't turn our backs on them, Pentagon spokesperson Sabrina Sy told the VOA. Our army and our service are going to have to start talking and making decisions that can impact the entire force. Ukraine is in an increasingly precarious position with the war in Russia, as the cuts in US support threaten to cause critical ammunition shortages as early as spring. They lack artillery shells, contributing to the loss of Avdiivka, a key city front line in Donetsk Oblast, earlier in February. The US Senate had already passed a $95 billion foreign aid bill that allocates $60 billion for Kiev, but the House Speaker Mike Johnson has not yet put a vote in Congress' lower chamber, despite the pressure from the Senate and the White House. Yeah, they're holding out on that one, guys. It's a very annoying one there. Another story here from France, the Netherlands, to back the Czechs' plan to buy ammunition for Ukraine outside the EU. So France and the Netherlands are backing the Czechs' plans to procure hundreds of thousands of ammunition rounds for Ukraine from outside the EU. President Emmanuel Macron and Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte told journalists. Kiev is facing critical ammunition shortages, as we are aware, as $61 billion funding for the UA remains stuck in Congress. Ukraine's decision to withdraw from the Sea of Africa early in February, Czechs began to push a plan to jointly finance the purchase of 450,000 artillery shells from outside the EU. The President, Peter Pavel, said on the 17th that Prague had identified 800,000 artillery shells abroad that could be sent to Ukraine within weeks if provided funding from other partners. The plan to use EU money to buy ammunition produced outside the bloc was initially blocked by France, which wants to boost its domestic defence industry along with Greece and Cyprus. Macron told reporters at the summit on Ukraine had convened in Paris on February 26 that France is totally open to the plan. The Czech's proposal was totally consistent on what we've done with it in terms of artillery. We have asked non-EU countries to reach solutions. We will participate in this initiative. Our only target is efficiency, Macron has said. The Netherlands will provide €100 million in aid to help buy the ammunition, Ruth told journalists at the summit. Ruth refused to specify which non-EU countries have been identified as potential ammunition suppliers. Interestingly, we don't know what countries have been identified here. We know that Putin is preparing for the long war, Ruth posted on X. We must continue to show that we stand firm, and now it's not the time. Is not on his side, Ruth said, and referring to the security agreement that Netherlands plans to sign with Ukraine. According to the Czech Prime Minister Pili Fuller, France and the Netherlands are among 15 European countries that have so far signalled support for the plan. Interesting. Also, what else is here? Ukraine have downed 11 drones. I think we just read on that. 2 Kh-59 drones missiles overnight. Russia launched drones from Prisco, Oskars in Russia's Kologarkari from Kursk Oblast. Yes, I know I mispronounced Russian names, guys. Sue me. The 4 Kh-59 missiles, as well as anti-radar Kh-31P missiles, were fired from occupied parts of Donetsk and Kherson Oblast, according to the Air Force. Using a launching ground in Russia's Volskis Oblast, Moscow troops also reportedly attacked Ukraine with unspecified numbers of Iskar-MB ballistic missiles, or North Korean KN-23 ballistic missiles, were similar to Iskandar's. So yeah, this pretty much confirms that North Korea have been supplying. If you didn't know already, we knew that North Korea was supplying weapons and ammunition to Russia, but this pretty much all confirms it now. The 11 drones and 2 Kh-59 missiles were shot down over Kharkiv, Sumy, Kamarisky, and Kologarsk Oblast. The Air Force has said the full consequences of the night attacks are still, being determined. This other one here, guys, is that just a report. Again, I've had people criticise. I normally do these ones in short videos, but seeing how it's here, I'll just do it for you guys now. General Staff has reported that Russia has lost 411,550 troops in Ukraine since the invasion started, according to the arms reported on February 27th. This number includes 850 casualties Russian forces suffered just over the past day. So this is according to their report. They report this every couple of weeks or months or so. Again, this is the closest and most accurate information that they have to numbers Ukraine's armed forces have. So Russia has also lost 6,556 tanks, 12,494 armoured fighting vehicles, 13,065 vehicles and fuel tanks, 10,009 artillery systems, 1,000 multiple rocket launch systems, 686 air defence systems, 340 airplanes, 325 helicopters, 7,729 drones, 25 ships and boats, and 1 submarine. I think they forget to add that 1 submarine. They've added that a few times on the statistics there. Just checking down at the bottom here on the left hand column, which you guys can't see. I'm just seeing if there's anything here. ISW hold an offensive initiative. What's this one here? Russia holds offensive initiative. Russian forces have re-engaged the strategic initiative in Ukraine. Will be able to pursue offensive operations in 2024. The Institute for the Studies of War wrote in its report. They said on February the 5th that Russia's military are preparing to launch new offensive in the spring and early this year. We'll have a look at the deep state matter in a moment. The ASW affirmed this assessment, knowing that Russia's recent battlefield gains and the disappointment of the Ukraine's 2023 counter-offensive. Russian forces have regained the theatre-wide initiative and be able to pursue offensive operations when they are close, as long as they hold the initiative, the ISW have said. They have always predicted that if Ukraine forces lead in active defence in 2024, Russia will gain a number of advantages, including the opposition to choose the time, location and scale of offensive campaigns. Russian forces will have the ability to manoeuvre, reserve concentration, determine how and where to allocate resources while forcing Ukraine to respond defensively, the ISW has said. The ISW has also suggested that Ukrainian military could deny Russian forces these advantage by conducting their own offensive campaign, seizing the initiative from Moscow. Ukraine's ability to do so is contingent on having enough means to mount another counter-offensive. They don't have the means to do that at the moment. Simply because they don't have, as it says there at the bottom, the running out of ammunitions and whatnot there. So just before I go to the deep state map, guys, I just want to try. There was an article reporting about, for the first time, about the number of actual losses that there was by Ukraine, and I'm just trying to remember where there was a report on that, and I'm trying to remember where that was. Just give me one moment. Just trying to find a story on this. Here we go. I was looking for a story on this. Give me one moment. So this was from yesterday. Zelensky says 31,000 soldiers are killed, given its figure for the first time. So this is the first time that we've actually had a report of how many soldiers on the Ukraine side have lost during their lives. So Ukrainian president also concedes Western weapons is in short supply at a crucial time of the war with Russia. Volodymyr Zelensky is giving the figure for the number of Ukrainian battlefield deaths in the war with Russia for the first time, acknowledging that 31,000 soldiers have been killed and saying 2024 will be decisive for the outcome of the conflict. Speaking in Kiev a day after the 2nd anniversary of Vladimir Putin's invasion, the Ukrainian president said he believed his country would win despite recent military setbacks. He concedes Western weapons were in short supply and were crucial at a time when his troops were speculating outgunned. They were running low on ammunition at one point last year, and they were firing one shell for every 12 unleashed by the Russians, he said. The ratio is now 1 to 7. They have great superiority, he admitted. He refused to say how many Ukrainian service personnel have been wounded, saying such details might help Moscow, but that Western estimates of the number of Ukrainian dead were too high. US officials have suggested 70,000 soldiers killed and 120,000 wounded. That's an estimate that US officials have suggested. It's not 300,000 or 150,000. Every casualty means a lot to us, Zelensky said. He put the number of Russian dead to 180,000. He said Russian casualties were 500,000, including the wounded. Yeah, based on the numbers that seem to be reported by the General Staff every now and again, it would not surprise me if those were the wounded. He described Putin and Russia as a ring of inhumans. The Kremlin have murdered the Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. And obviously they're going on about it's just continuing most of the stuff that we've already kind of established. But yeah, 31,000 soldiers, guys, have been killed at this current have been killed. It's a terrible state of affairs, to say the least, there, guys. Right, so just before we wrap things up, guys, let's have a look at the deep state map. So the time of this recording, the last update on this deep state map was the 26th of February at 8:46 p.m. That is the last time this map was updated. Let's zoom out just so you guys can see. This is the current update so far on the deep state map. Let's see if we can scroll in and just see where things are taking place. So at the moment it looks like they are trying to pushing some territory in Komomov there in towards Itovich there. From looks like they're looking to push into there at the moment, Russia. There seems to be a little bit of push in Kashkovishka there as well. Let's just pull back a little bit to see. You can see here a lot of pushing. Yeah, pushing here from quite a while back. If we can go back. Oh, no, don't want that. Just thinking, can we? Yeah, so this was yesterday, day before that. So the last couple of days here, guys, they have pushed here. So Tonsketsk and Olovika, yeah, it's not good at all since they've lost that territory. They've been able to keep pushing there at the moment, which is a great deal of concern here. Polovika here, if you just scroll back a little bit, there's not been too much movement here, although it's showing that they are trying to push through. Not seem to be showing much push there. another Visca there. Looks like maybe trying to make some gains there. Nothing's moving there. Nothing. There seems to be no other movement really on the line at all there, except from where they took Avika there. Let's have a look up here at the north. Let's see if there's any been changes the last couple of days in here. Have there been any changes here? Again, no changes here in terms of the defensive. So it looks like obviously the main gains that they've been taking is since they pushed out from Avika there, guys. But at the moment, this is the current state of affairs. Obviously, guys, if you want the link to the deep state map, the link will be in the description there. But this is the current situation right now. Yeah, so this is what we got so far on the current update on the war in Ukraine. And the main thing I would just say is that hopefully that they can just continue to hold the line. You know, any kind of talk of counter-offensive, I don't think they should be talking anything of such stuff until they want to get enough supply to ammunition. If they're going to do a counter-offensive, then I would say probably not until next year, if the war still could proceed to another year. But a lot can change between now and then. Like I said earlier on, guys, I am skeptical about whether or not this war is going to stay in their favour, especially with what's happening with America and what's going on over there. The holding up of funds and from America is not helping anyone in any way, shape or form, and it's a difficult situation. And the longer this drags on, like I said, it's having a knock-on effect to the rest of Europe, because people are kind of feeling the fatigue of this war, and it is getting very fatigued. But I will also say too, this does not need to happen. This should not have happened, and Vladimir Putin chose to declare this war. You know, this was a choice that he made, and we have to remember that this is an invasion and annexation of a territory and a country here, and let's not forget that. So guys, I hope you guys found we've reached the end of it. We've just hit over the hour mark. I have dragged it on a little bit, guys, because I wanted to kind of try and get as much out there information for you guys about what's going on in Ukraine. Quite a lot. We covered quite a fair bit in Europe as well. We covered some bits in South America, a little bit in Africa as well. Lots of interesting stories, guys. What did you make of the World's News Round today? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. Lots of different stories we covered today, quite a lot. Some of them quite short, actually, if I'm absolutely honest. But hopefully you guys found today's World News Round informative and helpful. But just before you guys see yourselves out, if you can, please hit the like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. Please share this across social media so others are aware of these stories, and subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. I really would like to get to that 1,000 subscriber mark, so any subscriptions would be greatly appreciated. And if you want to go one step further and financially support the work that I do here on this channel, which would be greatly appreciated, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or you can join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.